We're here today to talk about predictive design. We had an introduction, so I'm just going to skip right through it and let's go to what matters. Today we're going to talk about prediction, machine learning, and research. We're going to touch these three topics in a specific order. Basically, we're going to talk about what those things are, and why why use it, and how to use it. Okay, so let's start with prediction. What is prediction? It's a Latin word. So a prediction is basically a forecast, so a statement of an uncertain event. When we talk about AI, machine learning, all those things like that, we're not usually talking about a prediction. We're talking about an anticipation, and the difference lies on the premise that a prediction is a forecast. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, and with an anticipation, we can assure that this thing is going to happen because I know that this pattern exists. So why did I call this thing predictive design? Because I've been working with anticipation for the past year, doing a bunch of stuff. But the prediction, you don't need to use the highest power of machine learning and all the buzzwords you see in all the tech things and so on. These are things that you can just take home and apply to your, take to work and applying the things that you do. Before predicting or anticipating anything, you have to learn. So the whole basis of this is on learning. So let's start over there. So okay, what is learning? It's basically the first thing we do as we're born. So you get a kid or a baby, and they're just learning how things work, and they know that if I cry, I'm gonna get food, and if I throw things away, if I have a good parent, they're gonna, I don't know, slap me or something. So you start learning things as you go. So this is a thing that we do all the time. We're always learning. One example of that in technology is this little thing. Who ever heard of Nest? Oh, there's a lot of people. Okay, cool. So Nest is called the learning thermostat. And the learning part comes at the fact that it learns about your habits, and then it just changes the temperature of your house, and that's it. Small story. Why am I giving this example? Is I'm from Brazil, like I said, and I moved here in Amsterdam in the winter. Not good. I think it was like 45 degrees when I left, and then when I got here it was like, I don't know, 10, which for me felt like minus 100. So what I did was, I just felt my house feel like Brazil. So I just had my thermostat set to like 25. Cool, that's what Europeans do, right? Apparently, next July I found out that no, and I found out that I have to pay like 600 euros more for my bill because of that. Not that good. And this thing costs like 300, so I should have invested in this before. So yeah, small story. Why is it called learning? This thing you can see is when I open the app and I see the schedule of my Nest thermostat. So as you can see, it has like the temperature at specific times and like turns on and off and so on. When I installed this at home, my friend told me, don't just go and mess with the schedule, just use it as a normal thermostat and then you see what happens. So what happens is, I wake up, I turn the thermostat in the winter because it's quite cold, and I turn the thermostat and I do my things, I turn it off, then I go to work. Cool. I get back home, I turn it back again, then I maybe turn it off, and then turn it back again before I go to sleep, and then turn it off again. So just using like a normal thermostat. And then at some point it was like this. So I wake up, 15 minutes before that, it would just turn itself on, and boom, house is warm. Nice. I go to work. As soon as he knows that my phone is not in my house, it just turns it off. Bye-bye, big 600 euro bill for forgetting your thermostat all the time like I did. So this is just learning. It's learning like all of us do. Another quick example is that this one from Gmail. If you write that you have an attachment and you try to send it and you don't have an attachment, it will just pop this thing for you saying like, hey, you wrote whatever thing about the attachment, but you don't have an attachment. You actually want to send this message? They made a blog post about this, and this is such a small thing, right? But the amount of data gathering they did and how they found it out is insane. So basically, if someone sends an email and they send an email like seconds after that without text but with an attachment, they saw that most of the times they talked about attachment but they didn't attach something. So what can we do? If they fall into the prediction part that they wrote an attachment, now we just warn them before they make a mistake. Simple, effective, and a great use of machine learning. and then we got to machine learning. When we talk, like, machine learning is like it's a term that's been thrown around like all the time in the past 2 years or something. And then I think they grew tired of it and just started calling it AI, and now everything's AI. So it's like, I'm gonna AI the shit out of this product, and it's gonna sell like crazy. So this is like most startup pitch you see and shit like that. Sorry for the cursing. So machine learning. Let's start from what it isn't. So machine learning isn't magic. This was a gift, but whatever. So machine learning isn't magic. Machine learning also doesn't do the entire work. To be honest, it doesn't do anything at all. Kind of. But it doesn't do the work for you. It's not like, I'm just gonna throw machine learning in this problem and then everything's gonna work fine. So what does it actually do? We're gonna play a little game. I hope everyone can participate with me. Question, what is this?
Cherry.
What? Okay, so the model is off by a little bit, but yeah, it's an apple. So it's an apple. So, and next, what is this? Sure? Actually, it's not an apple, right? Fine. Next one, what is this? I love this one. When I read these slides, I was like, what's the weirdest shit they can get? And then show the people. And in Portuguese, we call this caju, but I have no idea how the thing is called in English. I just picked it. So, cashew? Okay. It's not an apple. So this, what we did, we basically just learned what an apple is and what an apple isn't. And that is machine learning. If I show you this thing, what it is, what is it? But it's kind of different from the other one, right? But do you think it's still an apple? It's an apple. It's just green, right? So the thing that we did, we showed to this machine learning model that's me, so you're basically training me, these three things, and we said, okay, this is an apple, this is not an apple, this is also not an apple. This is what we call a training set. A training set is something that you just tell the machine, like, hey, this is this thing, this is not this thing. Kind of like a kid, like, if you don't put this in your mouth, this you can put in your mouth. So the machine just learns basically the same way. And this is where most of the misconception happens when you're talking about machine learning, because this is manual work. This is something that you have to go and say, like, hey, this is this thing, this is not this thing. Do this 100 million times until the machine can actually do it itself. So basically analyze the training set that you're giving based on other things like color. So the first one was red, right? The other ones were not red. So those a characteristic that it looks at and says, like, okay, that doesn't match what you told me in the first place, so it's not that thing. I also gave it red and green, but you also told me that that's also an apple, right? So now I know that an apple could be green or red. I also gave texture. So the texture of the apple over there is quite different from the other things and the whatever. So you can just basically identify, like, hey, this is the texture, this is the one that I'm looking for, this is not, this is not. And I also talked about the shape, because it's round. Maybe apples are not round sometimes, maybe they fell off a tree, they're still an apple, but they're like a deformed apple for some reason, but they're still an apple. That might just fall off my model for a reason, because I didn't train it with that shape. So these things are features. So I have to tell the computer, like, hey, this is an apple because it is green, because it is round, and because it has this texture. This is not an apple because even though it's green, even though the texture is the same, it's not round. So this is basically what we're doing with the features. And in the end, we have the apple, which is the label. This is machine learning. That's it. Thank you. No, I'm just kidding. So this is machine learning, basically. So all the complexity that people talk about and yada yada happens, but it happens on how much you wanna be verbose about the features and about the labels and so on. These are some examples that models that I use daily, like if someone is price sensitive, if someone is location sensitive, if someone is date flexible, and so on. Weird terms, I know. We're gonna go through examples later. Okay, so now we know what it is, right? Yeah. Cool. So why? Why to use it? I think someone said this before. I think it was Raquel. that good product, good design means you have happy users and healthy business, right? So, but every kind of service that you have, every product, they have several touch points. And when you design it, you take those things in consideration. It's like, oh, someone is in a discovery phase trying to look for a hotel. Someone is in a discovery phase in a hotel trying to look for a room. Someone is in another discovery phase in a hotel. They know the room they got, but they want to know which package they want to get with that. So there's a bunch of different touch points that are actually kind of hard to predict all of them, but we see them in a daily basis. So with machine learning, you can basically, not with machine learning, but like doing your job, you can basically identify where you find friction in this product. Where are people dropping off? Where are we creating bounce? Where are people simply just, I don't know, just booking something else? Or where do you have a lot of doubt, they keep opening things and closing, opening, closing, opening, closing, spending 20 minutes on the page, or just spending 1 second on the page. So at that point, we know a bunch of friction points, and the best part of it is that we know what they did before. So we know what led them to that friction point. So when you know what led someone to a friction point, you can actually propose a solution. But not every user is the same. Not everyone wants the same thing. So you actually need to the training set part. So you need to give it information on, okay, when people want to do this, this, and this, and this, it means they are this kind of people. So then you can show something to them. So this is personalization, basically, in the root of it. But how to do it? In the beginning, I said that this wasn't about anticipating, it was about prediction, because it's something that we can do in a daily basis with everything we have. I'm going to jump right this. When we talk about data and like qualitative or quantitative, we always fall in the same oldest question. A few years ago was like the coolest thing that you could say about your company, that you're a data-driven company. Oh, we believe in data. That means we have Google Analytics, and that's it. And we do all the things right and yada yada. But those things are very, very different. When you're data-driven, the main pitfall of it is that you might end up optimizing the wrong thing. So like, hey, we made the button 2 pixels bigger. What if we made it 4 now? Great idea, let's do it. Now what if you make it 10 pixels bigger? And 20, and 30. So you're optimizing the wrong thing just because you found a data point that points you somewhere that you think you want to go. And I really like that quote from Andrew Chen. If they send out the slides, this slide has the link for the blog post. Is that basically everything is not an optimization problem. And what you do with that is that data is just one of the tools. It just helps you fill in the gaps on the story you want to understand. So the big difference between being data-informed and data-driven is that when you're data-informed, you accept that you don't know the full story. You know a bunch of stuff, but you just don't know the full story. So you have quantitative data, you have qualitative data, and what I kind of like to call like the little instinct. It's not like an actual instinct, but I think Rachel put it very well. It's basically where do we want to take this product? Where is the organization wants to go? So this is direction, it's a bet, and you don't know exactly if that's true, but there's a North Star. So having that also helps you being data-informed. The main pitfall of being data-driven is that you end up optimizing the wrong thing. And the main, the best thing about being data-informed is this. This is a local maximum. The button example, if I just keep increasing it forever, I'm going to reach a point that is like, okay, the page is just a button, guys. I think it's not good enough anymore. So this is a local maximum. It's when you reach a point where you cannot just simply keep improving the same thing. And if you don't accept this curve, you're never going to reach the global maximum, which is just kind of, okay, let's take a step back. See, okay, why does making this thing bigger work? Oh, because people were not seeing it. Oh, what is the problem? Maybe it's because it's just like gray on a white background. Oh, maybe that's the problem. So you're taking a step back to look at it from a different perspective, and you can reach the global maximum. Why am I talking about these 2 things? Is that practicing empathy, another hot word in the industry, practicing empathy is very important, and you can spin this out and just talk to your customers. I'm going to give some examples of how I and the design team at Booking.com, how we do these things. And we're going to run it up, and I'll show you how you can apply those things to the product, no matter how much traffic you have, no matter how much kind kind of matters, but don't matter how much money you have on how much money the company is willing to invest on that. Online survey tools, cheap, fast, and very economic. So if you want to know something about your users, remember that we talked about the friction point and about making the button a little bigger. Why not just add a little survey there after someone clicked that button and like, hey, why frame a question? What do you want to know? Like, why did you click on this? Or why did you click it before or something? So then at that point, you can just intercept them and understand. Now you know that the friction exists, and you can get more qualitative information on that thing. So doing online survey tools, great. Street level user testing. The Booking.com office here in Amsterdam sits on top of Starbucks, and for a while, I'm 100% sure that they hated us, because what we would do would be basically, I'm working, I build a framework prototype, and I want to understand how people use it. If I have to go and invite people over and get them in the office and they can run a usability test, that would take ages and yada yada. Why can't I just go outside and test? But then, like, oh, maybe he's not your actual target user, you're just testing with someone that's not actually going to use your product. I can bet like 10 euros that if you walk around Rembrandtplein in the center of Amsterdam, 80% of those people are tourists. Therefore, they're probably potential customers. So for us, it's very good. We just step outside. So we just go to the street and just tell people like, hey, use this, or what did you think of this after they accomplish a task and so on, and gather that knowledge. Then you have usability tasks, user research, and diary studies. Diary studies, for the purpose of machine learning per se, is one of my favorite things. Diary study has several ways to conduct. This one is one that's called a structured diary study. In this case, we intercept people, like even like when they're trying to plan their trip, and they install a phone in their app, like a recruitment agency gets them, yada yada. They install an app in their phone, and we send them a notification every day, saying, just asking, have you done something about your trip? If they say yes, they will go and say, oh, yes, I did, what they did, how did you feel about that? So we know what they did, what point of the journey they are, and how they feel about that thing. And we do that throughout the entire journey with a lot of people. Why is this good? Especially if you're doing it with a lot of people, you will find that at specific points of the journey, people might have the same friction. And what led them to there? What was the pattern that they did that led them to having that friction point? So the diary study is very, very, very good for that in this sense. And all this study, all this research methods, all this, everything that I talked about research, in the end, the only goal is to find patterns. For this purpose, is to find patterns. Because when you find a pattern, then you can actually start predicting something. So, if a customer clicks on Y, then they hover X. It clicks on X, then they hover Y, then they buy the product. Well, of course, a very abstraction, but you can see the path they take until they performed an action. So if they drop in a page, if before that they sorted the list by price, and then before that they had 3 different errors when they were trying to type the name of the city on the search, if I see that other people are doing the same thing, I can just try to fix this problem before it actually happened. And this is it's just design work. It's what we do on a daily basis, especially when we have a lot of data to look at. But then you can just take all these things and just feed them back to a model. These are some examples of models that we have. We have a data science blog for Booking.com, so if you're really into like the nerdy data part of it, you can go there and read about these things. But in the end, they're just abstractions of patterns that we can predict that someone will do. So I have those features like dates, the dates you set, the location that you're looking for, your past reservations if you're a customer. I have the bounce rates, what the things that you do in the page. I have the average time on page, destinations, and whatever other metric that you can think of, we'll record and we'll have that. And then from there, we can just create labels by putting people on buckets. So if I see that people that are looking for the date of today, so that maybe they didn't even bother just changing the dates, And then they go and they search for Amsterdam. Then they search for London. Then they search for Dublin. Kind of means that they're just shopping around, they're just kind of trying to get a feeling of where they're going. This is a guess, but when you look at data, you can see that from the millions of people that go to the website every day, they have a lot of people that do the exact same things, and if they do the exact same things, we can predict what they're gonna do. Sounds very abstract. It's kind of like, the whole point today was just like, so we can get to the end and like, we know what machine learning is, we know what we can do, and maybe apply some of those things, not having machine learning models and yada yada behind. But I'm just gonna walk you through some real world examples of work that I did and some other designers at Booking did, and you can see how we can put this to play. If you're in a hotel website and you reach the end of a list or you're just looking, just shopping around, and then you see like, oh, here are some recommendations for you. From a UI design standpoint, just a bunch of banners with cities and so on. But the work put behind this is that in this case, we know that people that are in a specific city, we know that a bunch of other people they also looked at, they also look for this other city, they also look for this other city, because probably they're doing like a multi-leg trip. So why not just show them what we know almost for sure that they will do next? So I know that people that are looking for London, they will probably look for Amsterdam, and they might look for Paris. And Rotterdam is a funny one because there's an airport in Rotterdam, so a lot of people just go there to fly to other places. So you kind of can track what all these people are planning to do based on what other people did. Because in the end, we're just kind of like herd animals. We do the exact same thing that other people did. Not everyone, but most of the people just do the same thing. I think when we were talking about this, our friend made a joke that most of the Dutch people, when they finish college, they go to Bali, Thailand, and then there was another city in the east. Like, it's a very normal thing to do. Like, a bunch of like Dutch kids, after they finish college, they do this kind of thing. So it's a pattern, and if you can predict it, you can offer it before they have to go and do manual work to find it. This is an example. Could be, I don't know, if it's a prejudice, I'm sorry. Another example, very simple, just a small banner. This was something that Maria, a designer at Booking, did. If you're mobile, so if you're mobile, that already tells a lot of stuff about you. It already tells that you are maybe looking for something now, or you're just shopping around because you don't have a high intent. So we already know a lot of things just because of the platform. And then you start shopping around and you see 1, 2 pages, you change here, you change this, you change this, you change that. In the end, based on a bunch of factors like where you're from, where you're looking at, the platform that you're using, we kind of predict like, hey, I think Pedro is date flexible, because I think he's probably he doesn't care about a lot about like when he's going. He just really wants to go to Amsterdam. He just don't care kind of when. So I know that Pedro will go shopping around until he finds something, and Pedro might get tired. Pedro might just drop because it's too complex or because of other factors in the website. So Pedro or millions of other Pedros might just get tired and just drop. So at the moment that the model look at the features, remember like round, grain, yada yada, as soon as Pedro performs a specific set of actions that we know for sure that Pedro is date flexible, instead of just showing the results in the search results, we just show this. So like, hey Pedro, we know that you're kind of shopping around. Here are other days that you can look at because these days are cheaper, because maybe I identified as well that you are not a cheap person, but you are price sensitive. So you care a lot about price, which is my case. It's not that much. So by doing this, you're just predicting what they would do. You're just giving the action to them way easier, so they don't have to scroll all the way to the top and maybe get lost into something like a butterfly. So Pedro might get lost into something, so you're just predicting that he would do it, you're just making his life easier, so it would just go, tap this, find the perfect dates, and then we'll book. The results are incredible, because you're really showing something to a specific niche and a specific set of users. If I just put this there for everyone, interaction is not going to be higher because maybe, I don't know, Lisa doesn't have flexible dates, so why I'm showing this to her? I'm just wasting real estate in the mobile page, which is already like very scarce. This one example. This is another one. This was from a hackathon 2 years ago. We have a image recognition system that we can basically tag what is in the photo. So like, oh, this is food, this is like ramen because it has like eggs or whatever. We have a blog post about this as well in the machine learning medium thing that we have. So in the end, basically what we can do is, I know that after you book something or whatever, I can just send you like, hey, are you looking for ramen in Japan? Here is a big concentration of photos of ramen because photos have geolocation, and when someone sends a photo as a review, a photo, we know where that person took that photo. And like, hey, this is a place with a high concentration of food photos, so if you like food, you should just go there. Here is a high concentration of photos of concerts. If you like concerts, you're probably gonna find a concert over there. So it's just like finding what is there and then just presenting that information to the users and just giving them a little bit of a control over here as well. So this is another application, and this is one of my favorites actually, 'cause it's ramen, and just because of that. Another one is something that I did last year. I love this thing. Yeah, I call it thing because I don't know, it is great. Everyone makes fun of me, to be honest. If I know that a person is, let's say, I'm going to every hotel that I look, I'm going browsing in the photos until I reach a photo that has food, that has breakfast, and then I drop. I go somewhere else, at the other hotel, same thing. I go to the rooms list, and then I start hovering information about breakfast, like the tooltip, to see what it's about. That kind of tells that I'm into breakfast, right? That's weird. That kind of tells that I really want breakfast. So why not? As soon as I identify that thing, the next hotel you look at, I can just put that photo as the first photo you see. Easier. You don't need to browse around. Here's the thing you're looking for. You can make your decision faster. So those are just very simple examples of very complex applications, but that you can just find the same thing in a user test. That you can find the same thing in a street test. And as soon as someone performs specific actions, you can just move things around a little bit and serve that specific person. So how can you do it? Track everything. If you have a digital product, track every single thing in your product. Hovers, every div, add something like a JavaScript listener and understand like what happens, like people hovering this, doing this, and save all of that in your database, and then you can sit with someone that knows how to query databases and kind of create a trail of things to do. If you have Google Analytics, you can just create the events in there, and then in the Google Analytics, the very friendly interface, you can just start checking like someone that did this event, what they do next. They do this, and they do this, and they do this. So you can just track the shit out of your product when you can. Sometimes you just can't, but try to do this as much as you can. Find those patterns that I talked about. One of the most important things, talk to your customers. Because sometimes you're seeing data from things that you already have. You don't see data for things you don't have. So when you talk to people, you can actually understand what they need, what they're trying to accomplish. And then sometimes you just need to create something new based on the things that you already had. But if I just look at this skewed data of only mistakes, I'm probably just going to make it easier for someone to make a mistake. I'm not going to be making it easier for them to actually accomplish what they want to do. See beyond our product. I talked about the diary, the Jesus Christ, what's the name? I just said it. That's the journey thing. I really like it because in that case, and in most of those things, when you intercept people for them to do that task, they don't know you. They don't know on Booking.com. So a lot of those people just end up booking on somewhere else. And for me, that's the most valuable thing because why did they choose that? Why did they drop at some point and went to someone else? Or why did they just hate something that I did? So talking to people and seeing beyond your product is insanely important, especially travel, because travel is not just about a hotel. Just like was mentioned before, is the flight, is the what you're gonna do, is how you're gonna move around. There's a bunch of things that you do that we can help because we have the data to do it, and we can predict things and just show you relevant stuff, not just try to push you whatever we want to push.